Hello and welcome. I'm Rick Kirby. I'm the producing artistic director for the Manatee Performing Arts Center, and I'm here to welcome you to the premiere edition of Backstage Pass. Now, during Backstage Pass, you'll have an exclusive opportunity to meet the producers, the directors, the actors, the people who bring you our great shows here at the Manatee Players. Now, up and coming, we have Secret Garden, and you're going to meet some of those people right now. So stick around for your exclusive Backstage Pass. I'm now standing on the third floor of the Manatee Performing Arts Center, and this is an area that not a lot of people get to see. And I'm here with Becky Evans. And Becky, what is your official title here?
My official title here is the Resident Costume Designer and Costume Shop Foreman.
And tell us exactly what does that mean?
That means I costume design the 8 main stage musicals, and I also manage the shop up here and the runnings and the organization and whatever we might need at the time.
And tell us about your helpers. I know that you have a lot of people up here,
I
like
have
your own private little army going here.
I have dozens. I mean, my assistant, Georgina, of course, and dozens and dozens of volunteers that come in and help me not just with sewing but with laundry. I have volunteers that come in and just help me organize. I have them copy patterns for me and keep that system running. So I have people doing everything you can imagine.
And I bet you could even use more.
I can use so many more, always.
Okay, well, I'm looking around and it's pretty overwhelming. You have 4 racks high all the way to the ceiling of costumes in here. So how do you keep track of that? What kind of inventory? I mean, it's got to be overwhelming.
Most of it is just between mine and Georgina's brains. We've actually gotten more organized over the course of the last 2 years since moving into the brand new building. We do have a couple of written up inventories of specific shows that we might have, and they're all nicely boxed up, but most of it is just from memory.
And that you box those shows because those are specific for rentals. You do have costumes available for other schools, other theaters.
Yes, and we get many rental requests
from around the country. I know we ship
indeed.
Costumes to California, to Idaho, to
Des
Iowa.
Moines.
Yeah. So we have 70 years. This is our 70th anniversary, so you can imagine how many costumes are up here. Now, we're specifically talking about Secret Garden right now. So tell us what. I know that I'm directing the show. We've had several conversations about the show. Mm-hmm. So kind of share with the audience what your concept is.
It's a very unusual show. It has a lot of things going for it. Beyond the fact that the music is beautiful and the story is beautiful and people are familiar probably with the story, it's got all of these kind of ethereal beings that kind of wander in and out. So they all need these special pieces that go for them. It separates them from the living action that's around them.
And it also goes to a couple of locations. It starts off in India,
yes.
So you have that element,
yes.
And then it also goes to Victorian England.
Yes.
So we're talking a lot of period pieces, right?
A lot of period costumes, and a lot of them that I can pull from the wonderful stock that we have here.
And that's important too. I mean, that's a good starting point for you, isn't it? Some shows you can do that. You can go to the racks and kind of build a show from the racks, and others you're starting from zero, aren't you?
Yeah, well, like with cats, yeah, basically starting from nothing. But yeah, with this one, we have such a nice stock of costumes that are here already that it's a really good jumping off point for building the rest of the show.
Now, Becky, I know that each show has its specific challenges. Yeah. You have to coordinate with the lighting, with the choreography. Can you kind of expand about how you adapt to those challenges?
Well, a lot of it comes from just reading the script once or twice. That'll tell you a lot about what you need to know, but then you also obviously have to coordinate with the director and find out what he's having those actors do in this specific scene to make the costumes functional. And then you can talk to a lighting designer about the colors that he's about to throw on stage, because that could completely throw off your costumes.
And the sets. You don't want a black costume on a black set, or else you're invisible, right?
Of course, yeah, unless that's your intention.
It's true, very true. And tell us about the physical challenges. I mean, if you're doing a dance show, you obviously have costumes that constrict or, must be able to move the fabric choices. Tell us a little about that.
Of course, and even with these heavy period costumes that we're about to put on stage, they do have to do dances in them. So I can't have long trains for them to trip over. They have to be able to hold something. They have to be able to move in them. And a lot of that, I will give them rehearsal pieces to work with during rehearsal so they can get used to the big, long skirts that they're about to trip over on stage. So. And
something else I find interesting about costuming, I mean, it isn't just making one costume. You have to think about all the pieces that go with it, the shoes, the hat, the gloves, the purse.
Every little piece that goes in there, exactly.
Yeah, so you're talking about thousands of pieces in one show.
In a single show, yeah, especially one with as many costume changes as Secret Garden.
Yeah, and we're thinking that everything has to be period. That must be quite challenging.
It is. I mean, it's fun. It's a fun thing to think about, but yeah, it's extremely, because even if you're just talking about a hat, each hat has a specific design to it,
a color palette,
specific pieces in it to match the dress that it might be going with, and then gloves and parasols and shoes and the whole 9 yards.
So tell us, there must be some horror stories that you have. I mean, have you ever built a costume that a director hated and you started all over? I mean, do you have any of those that come to mind?
The worst story I have is a coat that I built that had to look very distressed on stage, and I took it a step too far, and it was essentially unwearable, and opening day I had to rebuild the coat from scratch.
That must have been fun.
It was so fun.
Well, thank you. You're incredibly talented, and we're so lucky to have you here at the Manatee Performing Arts Center.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, we'll be right back, and you'll get to meet some of the actors from this show. Well, I'm now sitting in some very comfy chairs in our box seats, and I have some special guests that are here with me today. These are two actors who are in our production of Secret Garden. And can I ask you to introduce yourselves and tell us what parts you play in our play?
My name is Sarah Cassidy, and I'll be playing Lily Craven in The Secret Garden.
And I'm Ken C. Rapchinsky, and I play Archibald Craven in The Secret Garden.
Okay, I'm going to start with you, Ken, since you got the mic already. So I know you have a very extensive background in theater. Can you just kind of give us a little bit about your history?
Wow, that goes way back when the earth was cooling, Rick. I studied theater in college and got my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree from Rutgers University and my Master of Fine Arts degree from the Oslo Conservatory here in Sarasota, Florida. Went on to a pretty decent career in New York. Although I kept an apartment in New York, I traveled around the country and around the world performing in a lot of different shows. I worked with a lot of great people. Liza Minnelli, Linda Hopkins, Tiger Haynes. Worked with on the national tour of Victor Victoria with Tony Tennille, and then retired in 2000, going to 2001, and it took 13 years to get me back on stage, and you did it here with Les Miserables.
I have this theory that there's only about 7 people in show business and a whole lot of mirrors, and you're a testament to that because we have a lot of mutual friends back from the New York days.
From New York days, yeah. Actually, I went to school with some people that you performed with. I performed
right.
with some people that you went to school with, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Sarah, it's your turn. Can you give us a little bit about your background?
Absolutely. I grew up doing theater with my family. My mom would do summer stock in Chatham, New York, and that was sort of my first exposure. And she didn't hire a babysitter, she just took me. So I would sometimes be under the piano while they were doing run-throughs of Fiddler on the Roof, and then I gradually started doing those shows and started acting professionally when I was 14, doing various productions throughout upstate New York, Capital Region. And when I went on to college, I went to Wagner College in Staten Island, and I got a Bachelor of Arts from there. And I also completed an internship with the New York State Theater Institute, which is now not in existence, but it was a theater for young audiences company. So I got a lot of training for that type of theater. And I lived in New York for 11 years. approximately, and I did have a career in theater, and I traveled the country, and I ended up auditioning for a theater in Sarasota, the Golden Apple Dinner Theater, and that's what brought me to Sarasota. And I really didn't want to leave because it was paradise, so I stayed here, and here I am.
And we just miss each other. I taught at Wagner for several years.
Yes.
We just
Yes.
didn't make that. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, since you have the mic, can you kind of give us a little bit about your history here at the Manatee Players? I mean, you're a favorite here. You're on our stage all the time. Can you kind of give us a recap of some of your favorites?
Sure. Well, my first production was Legally Blonde in 2010 or 11. I can't remember exactly. And that was my first exposure to Manatee Players, and I was blown away by the commitment and the dedication of the performers and the staff, and I just couldn't believe what a great experience it was. So I came back for more, and I did Les Miserables with Ken, and I also did Miss Saigon, which was the first show in this theater. And I'd say one of my other favorites is Jane and Tarzan.
Now, you experienced both. You got to perform in the old space versus this beautiful new space.
Mm-hmm.
Just give a recap of the differences. Can you just tell us how bad was it, I guess?
Well, there were buckets on stage when it rained. So the talks in the wings were, there's a puddle downstage left, watch out. We're going to try to wipe it up. Or now there's a bucket on the set. So, and it was very, very cramped, although charming and homey feeling, and felt like a theater, and it was very, very, I don't know, nice in that way, but technically there's no match for this space. I mean, we can do anything here, and it's so enjoyable. So,
Good.
Yeah.
We're very, very proud of it and happy to be here, believe me. Ken, can you give us a little, tell us about your local history and how you fit in here at the Manatee Players?
Well, I mean, I first came down to Sarasota in 1983 to do my master's degree. And right out of there, I went over to Miami to do a 2-year contract with Florida Shakespeare. Fast forward, I'd come down here to take care of my father, who had taken ill, and did that for quite a few years. I was dared to audition for Les Mis, and I always take a dare. And it was probably the best decision that I could have done, because it reignited me to what my passion is. To work on that show was sheer joy. Sarah and we'd worked together on that for the first time, and the level of talent, just the production value of the show, but just the level of talent far exceeded what my thought of any community theater would be. The level of dedication, the level of absolute, I don't know what word I can describe it as, but it was just joyous. And I believe that fed to the audience as well. This is now my second show with the theater, and this is one of my bucket list parts. I've wanted to play this role for a long time, and it is again another joyous occasion. I mean, also the people that I'm working with, a lot of people from Les Mis, Sarah especially, and you. You know, working with you is as an actor, you're an actor's director. You know, it's that type of thing where you trust me to work with it, and I trust you to rein me in, you know, kind of thing. So, and I also have now the opportunity to direct, and I'll be directing a show in the smaller theater in the spring.
Mm-hmm. And we'll have a chance to talk about that a little bit
Wonderful.
later when we hopefully have you back, and we'll talk about Yank the Musical.
Good.
You talked about a little bit about the role that you're playing. Flesh that out for me. Who are you playing?
I'm playing Archibald Craven, who is he's kind of the linchpin for this show. I mean, it's Mary's story, but he's a very sad fellow. I mean, there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of emotional pain going on for him, and it's the pain is caused from complete love, utter love that he'd never felt before for Lily, and he sees in this young girl, Lily. I mean, he's haunted by Lily. He's haunted by that loss of that one thing that he actually could never attain in his life. And Lily walks into his life through circumstance, and he's thrown back into this hope that maybe, and yet there's this absolute what's the word I'm looking for? Tearing at his soul to recapture what he can't with Lily, and the realization that it's not, people, they may die, but they don't leave you. And that's not a
theme in this show. It really is.
And that becomes, as much as it's devastating for him, the idea that, and again, I think it coincides with the garden, that a garden may die, but it comes back to life in so many different ways.
Yeah, it's a beautiful metaphor.
Yeah.
So he mentioned Lily, which is your character.
Yes.
So what can you tell us about Lily?
Well, I play Lily Craven, and Lily is Archibald Craven's wife, and she has died 10 years before the story starts. And she died in an accident, a catastrophic event in the garden. And so she comes into the story either as a memory or a real presence with someone, or a sort of retelling of the past, a flashback. So I think there are many avenues that she can express herself. And I think she, from my point of view, I think she symbolizes love, essentially, across all the stories. Like, it's Mary's story of how she can rebuild her life and find a family. So Lily, I think, wants to care for her and follow her and make sure she finds her family. Meanwhile, she wants to take care of Archibald and other people as well.
Now, this is based on the children's book. It sounds like a really complicated, dark story, but
It is.
It's a story that little girls and boys grew up reading, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're both beautiful musicians. This has a lot of lush music. What can you tell me about the score itself?
Shall I start?
You could start. Yes.
The score is gorgeous. It is one of the most beautiful scores to me. It also is very unpredictable and very creative, and therefore it presents a lot of challenges, but I think that the challenges are well worth it. What do you think?
I've always said this is probably one of the most hauntingly beautiful scores that was ever written. And what's lovely about the performing of it is that the ensemble in this show actually guides and moves and turns the entire time and place and event and emotion, and the fullness with that darkness. I mean, it's stormy, but yet it's bright. It's dark and gloomy, but within that gloomy, there's always that little bit of green, or that bit of wick, so to speak, that is always kind of trying to find its way out. And it just, I cry. I cry just at the orchestration in it. It's just, the strings, the beauty of that was written by, and yeah.
You talked a little bit about the complexity of the music itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an easy musical to do. It's probably why it doesn't get done more often. Do either of you want to talk about how the concept and what the physical staging of the show is like with the set pieces and such? Because that's another level of difficulty we're adding to everything.
It's always very interesting to see how a director, how a producer decides what they're going to do with the show. I saw the show on Broadway. I fell in love with it. A friend of mine did the national tour. I fell in love with it again. And each one was done differently. And without giving anything away, what I love about this is that the design of this show is the idea of gardens, English gardens, were very maze-like. The show is very maze-like. We find ourselves maze, and the way that the set is moving and working, it kind of embodies that whole idea of maze and different parts moving at different times. It's as complex in its simplicity as the story is, I think.
Do you have any, I mean, you have some very difficult places to be during the show that you have to maintain. Is that a new challenge for you, or is it just another layer?
It's just another layer and another opportunity. What I love about the show is what is difficult about it. Sometimes there are two scenes happening at the same time, and sometimes it's very exciting, urgent scene, and you've got two people over here doing a scene, and two people over here, and we're doing it at the same time. And that's why it's very difficult to stage the show, because everyone is involved almost all of the time, and therefore people might just pop in for a moment and leave, but it really requires an ensemble feel to the show. I don't think I'm thrilled with our ensemble that we have, because everybody is right there at the ready, and it really requires a huge team effort. This is not a star vehicle. This is very much we're all like workings in a clock, and I think we all have to be in sync, and that's what's challenging but also very exciting. Right.
If I may, it's also a period piece, which adds a whole nother level onto it as well. It's a period piece that takes place in another country. I mean, so we're dealing with accents, we're dealing with costumes, we're dealing with a whole, and as well with a class system. You know, we'll put it in the same thing with the idea of Downton Abbey. I mean, you've got the upstairs and the downstairs going on at the same time, and that is going on within this as well. So you have that whole class system, you have that whole period idea of it, you have that whole character, which well, for me, is definitely more formal, as opposed to some of the other, I don't want to put it, townies or I don't want to say lower. It's
the more working class.
The working class, yes. The difference between the working class and the upper crust.
Okay, and a last thought. Why should anyone come see this show, for both of you? Why?
I think anyone who wants to be inspired. I've read the book this summer, and it's for anyone who wants to grow. Whether it's a child who is an orphan like Mary, or someone who is grieving over grieving over a loved one, I think there's tremendous capacity to find sort of therapy or healing or inspiration. It's so intimate. It's an intimate experience. It's not a big flashy show, but I think it's got so much warmth and depth to it. I think it's also fun. So I think there are fun moments with Mary and Dickon and Martha, and I think there's humor. I think anyone from a small child to their grandparent, I think it's perfect for our families. I really do.
It's a roller coaster ride.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
If anything, it's an emotional journey. It's not a show you sit to be, it's not a show that you're going to come see because you want to be entertained. You become involved in the show. You get swept away with this show. The music pulls you in, the story pulls you in, and and again, I'm going to say it's kind of like with Les Mis. You go along this journey with these people, and that whole catharsis as a cast, as a story, happens and can be just very much a part of the audience. I mean, you can leave here being changed in many ways.
And as the person who picked these shows, it's kind of a perfect contrast, I thought. Here we are sitting in front of the set of Cats, which is about the spectacle. It's about the, sit down, check your brain off, and be entertained. This is kind of the opposite of that. It's much like Les Mis, where you get swept up into that emotional journey, and that music just kind of tags you along the way. You will be asked to think. You can't just sit there. You can sit there and be entertained.
but you can just, if you're willing to, go along for the ride with this and just allow yourself to just be absorbed in the moment of this. You are in for a beautiful ride.
Well, I want to say thank you to you both. I can't be more proud of you. I'm so happy you choose to be on our stage. Thank you for that. And believe me, you don't want to miss both of these incredibly talented people on our stage with Secret Garden. So we'll be right back. Thank you so much. I'd like to say thank you for joining us in this premiere episode of Backstage Pass. Now, if you'd like further information, contact the box office or visit our website. I'd like to say thank you. This is Rick Kirby for Backstage Pass. See you next time.